everyone. This is, we'll call to order the meeting of the County Commissioners Finance Committee for today, Wednesday, October 21. We need to order, and we do not need a roll call for this, but we do have minutes from the last meeting of October 14 in hand, so I'll entertain a motion on that.
I move to approve those minutes.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Okay, we have two topics of discussion today. As outlined on the agenda, first is our friends from the Housing and Redevelopment Authority are here to make a funding request for the 2021 general fund budget, and then we'll be hearing from Dana in regards to the new Cumberland program that we've been briefed on numerous times. So let's go ahead and I'll give the floor to Tim or Rebecca, whoever, Tim, you want to.
I'll get started, Commissioner. So thank you all for the opportunity to be here this afternoon. In some respects, this is going to be a little bit of a tough one for me, because this may actually be the last time I appear before you in person. There may be a couple of times, in the next few weeks, I'll be hiding out over the Zoom meetings, but I thought this was certainly a good opportunity for me to say thank you for all you've done for, not only for me personally, but over these last 4+ years that I've been at the Housing and Redevelopment Authorities. The opportunity also to say face-to-face thank you for all the many considerations you've given me over the years. But I also appreciate the great amount of patience that you've shown with me over the years as well. So thank you for, again, this opportunity. Over the last few years, the county has provided, last year it was a $20,000 support monies for our downtown services program. We recognize that certainly here in 2020 that this is a year like no other. Here we are wearing masks. This is a year like no other. But even with this year like no other, we've been able to do quite a bit of work on our downtown services program. And we had submitted to you, I guess about a week or so ago, a rather extensive packet that outlined many of the activities that the Housing and Redevelopment Authorities have undertaken over the last year. This $20,000 request represents the same dollar amount as we requested last year. We recognize that COVID-19 has, it's like no other. It's really upset the apple cart on many fronts. And in putting together this year's proposal, we did not think it appropriate to ask for increased funding. So it's starting out that way. We're proud of what we've been able to deliver, even under the most difficult of circumstances this year. We certainly had, as all of us, those big surprises that started up in mid-March and caused all of us to wonder how are we going to get through this year. But we, as with everybody here in the county, as essential workers, we buckled down, we tried to rise to the occasion, and we think we've been very successful in doing that. And even in these very difficult times, new businesses have come into the county through the work of our downtown services. So without trying to prolong the little introduction, I wanted to have Rebecca make a few remarks and ask again for your consideration for continued financial support.
Thank you, Tim. Good afternoon, everyone. Business is brisk. Business amidst the pandemic is bustling. Not a single project that we have under downtown program services has been scratched. Not a single business in our business portfolio has closed due to COVID-19. We're pretty proud of that. That may be different in your perspective from what others think, but from where I sit, 2020 has been a year that opened, expanded, and presented a lot of new and unique opportunities for our business and our communities, businesses and communities. We had 3 businesses, all women-owned, who went from their garage or their basement to bricks and mortar shops on our main streets and our downtowns. All three of them are already in the process of expanding. One has purchased a building, one is purchasing a building, and one has leased the adjoining larger unit next to them to have a much bigger place. These are all creative, really media savvy women who now have their production facility, their studio, and their retail shop all in one place. We provided financing for one, grants for two of them, and advice and handholding to all three. Our businesses are expanding, they are rethinking and retooling operations in line with stepped up health and safety guidelines. Smoke and Pickles Artisan Butcher Shop, a CDBG funded business in Mechanicsburg, is expanding, adding a dining deck thanks to the CARES Act funding through Cumberland County. One of our Molly Pitcher partners has purchased an industrial cleaning and sanitizing business and is helping his fellow businesses. We have another downtowner that will invest within the next year $500,000 to add services at their almost 100-year-old business downtown, adding services that thankfully we didn't need during the pandemic, but we need to be prepared in case we need that in the future. We are downtown upturnists, tackling the problem properties with tools like About Face. A once condemned building is now Cristiano Winery, and they added a lot of outdoor space. They have more outdoor seating than they do inside. Declining properties redesigned and repurposed have reopened, and their business bright spots like Hook and Flask Stillworks here in Carlisle, like Gary's Gathering Place at Lighted Property, like Delicia that occupies the 10-year vacant church in Mechanicsburg. Many use the Cumberland Street View grants that Cumberland County provides. We work to preserve our architectural heritage. And again, in 2020, every one of the HARB awards for commercial properties in every one of the communities that has a HARB went to our projects, your collective projects. We've restored buildings to make them nice, welcoming, and living locations. That's like the John Hayes House where Sunrise Cafe is located now, and the Craighead House in South Livingston Township. Our work has expanded beyond the downtowns. We assisted Jubilee Cake Studio, who will open later this year in the Gateway Plaza in Hamden Township. Fine Art Photo, been in business for 70 years, 50 years on South 10th Street in Lemoyne. They've been displaced with the new owner of that building. They will move across the street to Highland Park Plaza. That's where Ace is, all the other units vacant until now. And in a few weeks, I'll be presenting a request for Issei Noodle for their Erford Road location. Our work is strategically focused and without fail. Not a day without work due to COVID. All meetings attended, all reports presented, all deadlines met. All of our programs and services, I'm proud to say, went on without delay and as usual in a year that was anything but. You've heard me say that what you see is not all that you get for our downtown program services. Delicia Ristorante, a bakery, will open next month. The county provided CDBG financing for that. But we had two other lenders that we were able to bring to the table, and 3 grants that we landed to be able to move that business from Midtown Harrisburg to our downtowns. With Soap had an awesome online presence. They could have landed anywhere in all of central Pennsylvania. We worked with them so that they chose Cumberland County. And we're financing Hanover's Dough and Arrows. They will open later this year in downtown Carlisle for a second store, and that's the ice cream man you've been reading about on Nextdoor. They provide delivery services. It's not the popsicle man. They deliver gallons of ice cream and ice cream treats. The media assists us picking up on my reports that I provide to them every month for all my communities and all my programs. And they pick up on our story ideas, like Saturday's article about war debtors, was picked up the week before from our reports that was provided in advance. Or the recent story on brittle bark. The Business Journal is doing a story about face and about the 3 women that I mentioned, a trend that we see growing. So Mechanicsburg's About Face is that itty bitty facelift, facade facelift program that turned things around in one community and 10 years later is modeled by many other communities. We can do business here. We can act smartly and safely. We will be better. It might be different, it'll be different after COVID, but we will not wait to get started on that. We are taking time that might otherwise be used for other projects and putting it into things like Lemoyne's Open Space Plan. This is a plan that underscores health, fitness, open space, green space, and neighborhood parks across the borough. How do we know what people want? Because we took a survey in 2019, and we asked them what they would like to see. And they said they'd like to see things like, less tennis, more pickleball, and more play spaces for people of all ages and abilities. We're developing the plan right now, and that was funded in part by DCNR and Cumberland County Berlin Partnerships Grant. We've assisted downtown Camp Hill build a vibrant business community and a sustainable downtown organization that will help grow it and promote it. We remain focused on retail, restaurants, and downtown assets. And more important than ever, we have to be because of online pressures. Look at the work product, the value, the initiatives that we've produced in 2020 that you need here, totaling over $7.5 million. In 2017, I presented a briefing, and a couple of you will recognize this, as we started discussion about a blight fee here in Cumberland County. 3 of the problem properties mentioned in this briefing are now welcome sites with new owners, improving the buildings, improving the blocks, improving the neighborhoods, adding rental inspection programs and maintenance ordinances. I like to say it's the good kind of contagious. 105 North Hanover Street, where Del Arrows will land, was a revolving door of tenants, 9 by my count since 2008. But they will buy the building and open their business. And they're entrepreneurs who have really met the challenge. Their first quarter 2020 was more than all of 2019. They bought the business in January. Their second quarter figures amidst the shutdown, amidst the stay-at-home order, 217% over 2019. And they'll be adding 20 jobs. I get calls from other counties and other communities throughout the year. They've read about us, they know about our programs, they know how we've helped businesses and communities do a lot of different things. And they say to me, well, that must be a misprint that the county's involved, that you have this sort of program. How do you do it? What kind of staff do you have? The truth is, there's nothing like this out there anywhere else. Our request for 2021, as Tim mentioned, is the same $20,000. Your help is not only deeply appreciated by the authorities, of course, and our community's business and property owners. It's essential in ensuring Pennsylvania's fastest growing and most invested in county remains so. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I'll just say a couple of comments and questions as usual. Interesting you made the reference to the whiteboard, and I know that's not specifically your requested area. But I will say that I zoomed in on the last Blight Board meeting, and was frankly, I'll say more than a little disappointed with the fact that the folks on the board seem to have no idea, other than there's money coming at them. They had no idea what the plan was, what it was eligible for, how they were going to use it. So if we're going to tout the blight issue, we really need to make sure that since county planning is no longer taking care of this, I guess it's nested in your shop, Tim?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, I mean, Chris Rafferty seems to have an understanding, but the members of the board don't.
Yeah, and if I may, sir,
Yeah.
that was the first time that the Blight Board had met since it all been approved. So we're still working. I had conversations yesterday with Kirk Stoner as an example. We'll be meeting with Jamie here in early November We'll be working with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board and the others, and the Light Board, which has a meeting coming up here in November. We should be able to have a more detailed look at how some of these blighted properties will be prioritized. Since even though there's good money coming in, the money just started here the 1st of October.
Well, that may be true, but the entire proposal had been debated literally for years.
Yes.
So, and I believe some of those members have been there long enough that they really shouldn't be spending a meeting brainstorming on things that have already been essentially decided, some of which are constructed out. And so
understand the criticism, sir, we'll take it forward.
my point in this is I continue looking for an integrated strategy, and I continue to be frankly dissatisfied with the level of performance reporting on this. There's a lot, it's very anecdotal, and it's very nicely prepared, and these are very fine things. To me, they raise as many questions as they answer, but that's fine. These are mostly sales pieces, and they do a nice sales job. But to me, they don't really talk enough about what the real economic outcomes are for those communities, or how this fits into an overall strategy. And I've heard numerous references today to a plan. To me, this would be much more useful exercise if we were briefed on what the plan is and what the objectives of the plan in the year 2020 are, rather than a review of these pieces. Again, very nice pieces. But, and I think this harkens back to another discussion point, which is the presence of the memorandum of understanding between Katy Housing and Redevelopment and the county planning office as well. So, given that Katy is now implementing its strategic blueprint, and coincidentally, we also happen to have a transition workshop going on, I think the agreement does allow for a review of how things are structured, and I believe that's at least somewhat underway. We're going to try to extract some of your knowledge and wisdom accumulated over the years before you leave, so we have something to work with. But a good look at that MOU in terms of how it's working, how it's not working, and more importantly, what the strategy is, how the pieces are going to interact, and what we're trying to achieve. And again, it's every year I'm saying this, but how does the downtown effort dovetail with all the other economic development efforts? And is it being managed for outcomes? Is it managed effectively in accordance with all the other components and such? And I just don't feel like we ever get an answer to that. So, I'm not going to oppose this, but I am stating my concern that I want to make sure that this review of the MOU does take place, and that we are seriously looking at, is this the best way to deliver services in terms of our downtowns, and is this the best way that we can report results? Even just looking a little time, I had to look through this, I have a half dozen questions at least. I'm not going to belabor them here. I may ask them later, but if we were delivering reporting in the manner in which I have discussed previously, I wouldn't still have these questions.
Okay. Well, a couple of different comments, sir. First off, with regards to KDIC, the authorities, and the memorandum of understanding, we have a meeting already scheduled for November 4th. 9 o'clock in the morning, we'll be meeting down at KDIC. Mary Kuna, the new executive director of the authority, starts on the 2nd. So obviously, starting on the 2nd, this meeting on the 4th, this is one of the first, what I consider to be a significant priority that we need to engage in. I've had conversations with both Jamie and Kirk as starting some of the preparations, getting ready for that meeting on the 4th. I do agree with you. It's been, I guess, about 3 years now. It was 3 years in February when the current memorandum of understanding was signed by both of our organizations. There's been a lot of evolution since then. There's been a lot of new things that we do with KDIC and KDIC with us. We are still continuing our regular monthly meetings. I'm still an active member of the Real Estate Collaborative Board, which deals with, as you know, some rather significant projects here. And there's been CDBG monies and other monies coming through the authorities that have supported a number of those projects. So I do see the memorandum of understanding as, with the transitions, we didn't start some of that review after Jamie came in. He's been there now about a year or so now. But this new transition seems to be a real good time. And again, November 4th at 9 a.m. we'll be starting those conversations. So, and as you know, putting together those memorandum of understandings will take a little bit of time. I don't think it's going to be an overnight sensation after one meeting. It'll probably be a variety of things. Because the first time we put together the memorandum of understanding, the planning department was not one of the signatories to that. It was just between the KDIC and the authorities. One of the things for discussion is, how should the planning be, should it be a signatory? Right now, the way the memorandum of understanding is put together is the planning department embodied in Kirk are there to help mediate any confusion or difficulties that may arise about the implementation of the MOU. We've never had a confusion where Kirk's had to come in and mediate something. But as you know, through the Blight Board and through other things that we're have done with Kirk, it probably doesn't make sense. I don't know, can't give you the answer to that, but should they be a signatory on this as well? Maybe something that's worth considering. But Kirk will be there on the 4th as a part of this evening conversation.
I think you're making my point for me, which is things have evolved, things have changed, so it behooves us to look at the structure we put in place to see if it still delivers the result that we were hoping for.
Yeah, and I hope you're hearing from Jamie and Shireen and others there at KDIC or Kirk that we're working really well together these days. There's really no animosity between us. We're looking for partnerships. We're finding ways to work together. These regular monthly meetings are indeed productive.
I have heard that, and that's very promising.
Yep.
The downside of it is that we have to make sure those personalities are working well together because they essentially are working around the flaws in the MOU.
Sure. Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
we obviously can't count on that forever. I mean, we want to have the MOU, we want to have the structure in place that's a structure that works.
Yeah.
Because personalities can change, as we've seen. James has been there a year, Mary's coming on board. Hopefully, we'll still retain, a high sense of workability and achievement, but we need to have a structure that reflects reality.
Yep. Understand we will work to, again, starting on November 1st, work to deliver that for you.
Okay. All right.
I'd just say, Rebecca, I was familiar with most of these things because I have read your email updates all year. And I look forward to those updates because it keeps, it really keeps me kind of on the pulse of what is going on. So I appreciate them. And I certainly appreciate your ability to be very positive about things. I think you are an asset to this program. It's the way that you put things and the way that you sell things. I think you're excellent at it.
I have no question, but I appreciate the presentation. Appreciate the information and thank you.
Right. Thank you all for
Thank
the
you.
opportunity. We appreciate
Yes.
this chance.
Anything else?
I have nothing.
All right, thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have our second topic is the renewed Cumberland Funding change recommendations. Dane's going to speak to us about this.
Yes. And then I think Katie's gonna join us under other business.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna move over as far as I can get so that when she's ready, she can join me. So, as a CPA, it's very hard for me to come to you and say, I'm planning for the future and I don't know what's gonna happen. But that's actually what we're kind of doing, because we have a little bit more than 2 months to spend the money. And we are noticing that there's some changes happen, especially in county departments. Some applications are going under budget. Some additional, some people are saying, hey, I like that, can I do that too? So we're looking for a mechanism to quickly change and adjust the circumstance so that we can, fully utilize all this money. At the same time that we were starting to talk about this, we had 2 municipalities come to us and ask for small amounts of money in addition to what they applied for. And so we also then reached out to Keith and asked him how we could update the contracts to move that forward, and that's attached. If we wouldn't have the need to adjust the contract so that we just are fully prepared. So why are we doing this? The businesses are coming in very quickly, we're almost done. We haven't really had much time to focus on the counties, Kirk's handling the municipalities. Stephanie's been reaching out to the nonprofits, but there's still a lot of open areas. We may have the potential where we have some unclaimed funding, or somebody wasn't able to get their supplies in, and different things. So we need a mechanism to change and adjust very quickly. We have a lot of things out there that we could spend money on. So what we're asking for is the authorization for a team of us to be able to allocate funding quickly, instead of going through the normal processes. So what, in a perfect world, what I would like to see is that Stephanie, Ron, and I have the ability to move between the already approved applications at any level. So if something comes up and I need $95, yep, we can do that. If something comes up, that we have the rooms that we're setting up, the conference rooms, we have more people that would like to take advantage of that. Ron and Stephanie and I, if there's enough funding, would like to be able to say, yep, let's do that. If Mark, in that case, would have to sign on also because it's IT, and if it's building related, John Locke would have to sign on too. And we have the ability to arrange and move monies around for that. And then if it's anything new and county, where our recommendation is that the county application department plus Ron and Stephanie get together and talk about it and decide it and approve. We don't have any large projects yet, but if one of those projects would be, say, over $100,000, we would recommend we get the verbal approval from the commissioners and then reaffirm it later. I have no idea what's gonna happen, so it's kind of like trying to come up with all the scenarios I can possibly think of and get it in.
Now, you mentioned 100,000, is that the threshold we want to set, or is that just a off the cuff example, or?
Well, that's what I have in here as the amount, but it can be anything. It can be higher, it can be lower. I just chose 100,000 because that's the threshold that's been chosen for change orders for contracts.
Okay, so it is paying for something.
Yes.
Stacy, you're satisfied with that?
Dana, how much do we have roughly excess?
There's nothing in excess right now. So we have allocated additional funding into the small business tier 2 and the child care, and that uses everything that we know is not going to be claimed. But
Well, that's what I mean, how much do we have that's not claimed or allocated?
we don't know yet.
Well, what you're looking
Everything
to
is
do
claimed.
Yeah, what you're looking to do is to have the flexibility to reprogram those dollars.
Sure.
Yeah, to their
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's fine.
And I do have the reports of what, so far, there's almost $9 million,
Right.
and we've actually paid out almost 14 million. So we're quickly running through the money. It's that last million or two that
Mhm.
we need the ability to shuffle if things don't happen.
Okay.
And one advantage we have, if you approve this letter, it's not that we have to do anything even before the end of the year. If we have, say, making things up, just 5 nonprofits that don't spend $100,000. If we have a list of people that have already spent their money, we could then issue this and pay it. So it just has to be spent by December 30th. We can reallocate later if we need to. This is just our mechanism, because it's gonna be like one thing after another, having to react to very quickly. At the same time, we're going into year end for us. And we're doing the budget, right? So there's just a lot of irons in the fire, we're trying to make it so that we can react quickly. We need to get some supplies ordered very soon, or we may not have them by year end. So that's the other issue, we need to be able to, okay, that supply order's not coming in, we need to be able to do this.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to take this phone call. Just
Okay,
continue,
problem.
okay? I'm good.
So I don't necessarily need approval today. If you're ready and you're happy, I'm willing to take it because it sets us up and it is easier. We can do it on the next workshop if that's better. Keith has already reviewed this letter and adjusted it to what he thinks is okay. It would have to be countersigned by the business because our contracts are for a specified amount.
So I'm assuming from what you're saying, that this does require formal action.
Yes,
Keep us-
yes.
Right.
Yes, because it would be authorizing
Yeah.
us more authority than we normally would have.
Okay.
David, do you want to just mention who the application team is?
Yes,
I know
so
it's in writing. but-
the application team is Stacy, John Locke, Mark Adams, and myself. Plus Stacy, Stephanie, and Ron in this case, because they're the ones that are managing the money and know what's available and not, so we wouldn't want to do anything without them.
Right.
Kirk is actually managing the municipalities. We've had 2 municipalities say they need just a little bit more money. It's minute enough that I think we should fund them. It's very small, but we would need to do this in order to fund them that additional money. The municipalities are a lot like the county. There's not a lot of extra funding out there, and it's based on actual expenses, and they have to prove it at a higher level. So I'm more comfortable with them. I'm not sure how I feel about the nonprofits and the childcare facilities, but I left it in there because we just don't know.
Right.
I wouldn't offer them money in addition unless something happens that, hey, we spent $50 more, can we have it? And we have money sitting there after the
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So I know I rushed through it,
No, that's-
but do you have any specific questions?
I think I just mine, so.
Yeah, you're looking for approval for a funding change recommendation and also on a letter, correct?
Yes.
So there's 2
There's actually
actions.
specific. Yes.
I see no reason why we can't do that today.
Yeah, I think we could do it today too. I really hate that you are handcuffed, right?
Right.
And sometimes the handcuffs, cost more money, right? Then we can do good with this money, and we need to make sure it's spent.
And we want to make sure we're not overstepping our authority. That's.
Correct.
We have those controls in place for a reason, and
Sounds good. Well, it sounds like there's a consensus and.
And we like the $100,000, so if it's below $100,000, you can go ahead and move with it, but you bring it to us.
yes,
Okay, but if it's $100,000 or more, then you come to us first.
right, with new
Okay.
project.
With the
New project. So the contingency is a big bucket of money for these specified expenses, but not dollar amounts specific. So there could be some big movement.
Is there any envisioned timeframe for when we would be notified then? Is it just like a monthly report or after the decisions?
So with the 100,000, I would assume if we decide to go, it would be on the next available meeting,
If it's above.
if it's above.
Right, but I mean, any of those, the dollars you have discretion over, certainly you're still gonna notify us. It's simply your power to take the reforming action without our formal approval. And then we would be notified of what the action.
We kind of envisioned it because it's gonna be moving continually. We
Yeah.
have a lot of irons in the fire. We're tracking the original budget against the ending budget, and then we would give you that comparison. And I did bring an example. We have an activity report that lists all the different categories and what they were through. It even lists each individual business.
Okay.
And so at the end, we'll be able to give you that,
Okay.
and it will show what the original budget was and what the adjusted
So
budget.
the notification of us would occur essentially when it's all done.
That's what I would envision, because it's gonna move so quickly.
Okay.
I mean, we're at 2 months.
Yeah, we are. We are.
Stacy?
Well, I would just think that if the application team got together, I would probably send you an email just giving you, you know, an update. We've met, we've approved X, Y, and Z.
Okay.
I would probably do that individually. If it started to get to where we were meeting 3 times in a week, I may do that once a week. I think it really would depend on the volume, but I would give you as close to real-time updates as possible for those below $100,000, just so you're aware.
And I envision on county projects and the things that are already approved and moving money between projects is probably what's gonna occur the most.
Mhm.
And we probably won't know that till the end.
Okay.
Right.
We'll be moving those numbers around January and February on things that have already been spent.
Sure. I don't want the reporting to come over either. I mean, it's just
Right.
monitoring, reporting, all those things that it's kind of always part of the, whatever we approve, so. Okay, so, is there a motion or two?
I will make a motion to approve the requested funding change recommendations as presented by our Chief Financial Officer regarding CARES grant monies and their final allocation. With permission given to the county application team to process any applications $100,000 and under.
So our recommendation is actually kind of threefold. Sorry, I didn't interrupt. It would be that Stephanie, Ron and I have the ability to adjust within the approved projects.
Okay.
And then the second part would be for us to, the application team to approve new projects up to 100,000, and then over 100,000 would be the commissioners.
Does everybody understand the provisions?
It's actually at the end of the document,
Okay, but
with a lot of words.
Okay, so Stephanie, Ron, and Dana, is that, they are the three?
There are the three.
I thought there was four. And you're-
Well, it would be Mark and John would have input when it's related to their departments.
Okay.
Like, if it's technology, we wouldn't move with technology unless Mark said, yeah, that makes sense. And
Okay,
buildings would be
I
John.
That means withdraw my motion and start a new motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve changes to the renew funding, which would allow Stephanie Phillips, Ron Snow, and Dana Best to have authority to adjust funding within the approved projects. And also for any new projects that come in that are $100,000 or less, those individuals will have authority to move forward. Those applications that come in that are over $100,000 will need to be discussed and approved by the commissioners before moving forward.
Okay, so that's your motion. Do we have a second?
Do we need to add anything about this letter to that motion?
That, we can make that a second.
Second, okay. So I'm going to second your motion, Commissioner DiFilippo.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table, it's been seconded. Any further questions before we call the vote? Hearing none. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
There's none opposed, motion carries unanimously. Okay, I think you have another. Is there someone? Going up.
I'll go ahead and I will move to approve the Renew Cumberland Tier 2 letter that pertains to our first motion, which would allow for an expedited process for approving changes to the Renew funding. So we approve the letter, the motion is to approve the letter as set forth and brought to us today.
Second.
Okay, so moved in second. Any further questions?
I do have a question. I just want to point out that it would actually be for both the original as well as for tier 2.
Okay, so the letterhead says Tier 2.
Yes.
That's
the
it.
letterhead
So
says
that's
tier
it.
2. Yeah, I just noticed that as you were saying it.
Yes, so we need to take the tier off.
Okay, so I'm going to, I will amend my motion to say that the letterhead on the Renew Cumberland letter will remove the tier 2, as the funding could be from tier 1 or tier 2.
I'll second the amended motion.
Okay, it's moved, seconded, any further questions? If not, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. You are empowered.
I hate being empowered. But I apologize for that tier 2, I just took one and,
Yeah.
I missed it.
Yeah, I mean, we all, Dana, we all looked at it.
It's all gonna be all right.
We're getting it together.
Okay.
thank you.
So you have the
Thank
two
you.
votes passed. Is there anything else you got, Tammy? You had something?
I'm not
Is that under other
Other
business?
business.
Oh, okay, all right.
Before we get to other business, does the board want to take action on the first item, the housing and redevelopment funding request?
Do we do that here, or do we do that in a workshop, in a commissioners meeting?
We can do it either way, but I mean, not every item in the budget is, gets endorsed at this level, but I mean, it's,
I don't care, I just want to.
Yeah, I don't either. It's a good question. I don't know how it works.
I think we've done it before.
we might do it both ways, but what's been the prevailing practice? Do you want to have direction from the board before including it in the budget draft?
So I believe this would fall under the grants, right?
Oh,
I think with
okay.
the grants, you guys have to
Yeah.
get action at a
That's right,
public meeting.
that's right. So we
I
can
don't
do it
think-
today, or we can do it at another meeting, however you want to do it.
I would prefer to do it, in a commissioners meeting, just because it is a grant, and we seem to have done, that seems to be the way things have been done, at least since I got here.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. In fact, I think that's a good suggestion. So we'll add it to the agenda for next meeting. Any other questions that come up, we can address before that time, so. I have a bunch of questions regarding the reporting, but the same questions I've asked the last few, and I've gotten answers, so I'm not sure what we're saying at the time. You know, you want to take care of it. Okay, if that's the case, we'll move on to item 4, other business, so we'll start with Tammy.
So I'm here to see if you have any questions about the 2021 budgets, because on Thursday, the 29th, will be before you to put the preliminary budget on view.
Okay. And that's the 30-day, is it 30-day process?
20 days,
20 days? Okay.
yes.
We normally leave it on for 30, but the requirement's 20.
That was people thinking of this.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like 28 days this year, we're a day or two short of 30.
Okay.
Um,
I'm still looking at the document. There's nothing that jumps out at me right now. I mean, there's so many, I have 1,000 questions, but they're not the questions you're gonna have answers to. So,
One of the things I wanted to point out in the budget and brief, mine doesn't have a cover on it, but there are several pages in here, total county budget, it's on page 15. We've got a lot of explanations of the changes between the budgets, so that, you know, if there are questions, we've got a lot of explanations on our revenues, on the expenses,
Okay.
and there's a section in here for the general fund also. So the general fund revenues are in here along with revenue explanations and expense explanations. And I think that's the biggest thing I wanted to point out is there are a lot of explanations in this document to try and explain the differences and what's going on in the budget, so that it will help you understand it. They're the important pages. And it's still in draft form, we've made a few changes already since we printed it. Not to the numbers right now, but cleaning up a little bit of the wording, getting it a little better, flowing better, and a few more charts. Filling up some of the blank spaces we had.
So if I call with questions, I'm likely to hear, did you read page 15?
She'll say it nicer than that, I promise.
But I wanted to point out those, because I think
That's
they're the big pages where it does do a lot of explaining, and
It's good to know.
2 years ago, we had done the commissioner's budget and brief, and we had a regular budget and brief, but I liked the commissioners, so we combined it all into one, and it was mainly because of these pages with all the explanations on them that I really liked, because I thought it gets to you ahead of time to help explain what's
Good
going
one,
on.
yeah, it's helpful. Oh,
So if you have questions at any time, you can send us questions, and we'll
Okay.
give
Okay,
you some
all right.
answers.
Good.
Good.
And there
Thank you.
is, we just gave you the preliminary one, there is a detailed one if you really want it, but we-
Like a Bible,
yes, so,
And
it
that's
is
condensed.
available if you want it, but this one is a condensed version.
Okay.
Remember, I requested the detailed one when I was first running for office, it's like, what the hell is this?
It's huge, it's 600 or more pages.
Learn your lesson.
I quickly asked for the condensed version.
That's fine, it's available if you want it, we can get it.
Right.
You can do it in PDF form too.
And we could take it from that document to 5 pages. Actually, 2 is our smallest.
Well, I do have general fund, I have a condensed version, I have a condensed version, somewhat of the total county budget that I use when I'm writing, explaining, making sure it makes
Do we
sense.
make any of those available to the public, without request?
Mm,
Well, this one is on view.
that one's on view, this
Okay.
guy is.
And then we do have one on the website, don't we? When it goes on view.
I know we used to post something on the
We just put
website,
this on the website,
just the big one.
just the big one. During the fiscal time, we have the little short
Yeah.
summary one that we do post.
We don't actually put this out to the public until final, correct? The
The-
budget and brief.
So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
but you mean after the 20 days plus period, that's when, once it's essentially approved?
Once you've heard it, that's when we put it out.
Because we're still drafting it.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's all I have. Anybody else have questions? Okay. All right, we have one other item under other business, right?
Yep. Sheep for,
Yeah. For my marked up copy. There it is. Okay, I think everybody got this, so I'll, Stacy, correct me if I'm misstating this in any way, but, the Friends of Sheepford Bridge have applied to the County Historical Society to have Sheepford, Bridge listed on the county's historic register. And apparently there's gonna be an award of monies for them to purchase a plaque. We're unclear on where the plaque's gonna be placed just yet. But the Friends, have accepted the request. And, I'm sorry, the Historical Society has approved that request. And, it has been awarded, the money has also been awarded for the purchase of the plaque. And the Friends of Sheepford Bridge are requesting the county consider accepting the request and award. I'm assuming we're on the receiving end, you said because we are the owners of the
Yes.
bridge?
Yes.
Your county is not the owner of the bridge?
I'm assuming it has to do with the fact that the plaque would be eventually installed on the Cumberland County side
Okay.
of the bridge.
Yeah. Okay, so we have, a request for the county to essentially, accept the request and, are we acknowledging or we're accepting the request, but who's getting the award? Just says.
The award would go to the Friends.
Okay, all right, so the county's not
Right.
accepting the
Right.
award, but we're
So I
accepting the
think
request.
they want us to acknowledge it,
Acknowledging the award.
and we might even want to consider not even mentioning where it's being installed. The
Yeah,
award is
that's-
for the purchase of the plaque.
Right.
right.
I think it doesn't hurt to say the details of the placement are to be determined later.
Yeah.
Because the last thing we
Yeah.
wanna do is have something transpire, that we didn't have, knowledge of. So, if you wanna put that in a motion, that's fine as well. I think also that the fact there's no cost to the county is something that would be worth immortalizing, in whatever
be involved in this? I mean, as I'm reading these three sentences, I'm starting to wonder why we're even involved. Because we didn't, if the award is to the Friends of Sheepford Bridge.
The award is, but the Sheepford Bridge, I guess, needs our approval that it was really, I think it's really a reaffirmation that it was okay for them to apply in the first place, really.
Right.
I think that's what it
part
was
two,
down to.
they are looking for, what they don't want to have happen is they accept the money to get a plaque, and then we say, no, you can't put a plaque.
Right.
So essentially, there's
Right.
an implicit endorsement that we're okay with the process of a plaque being installed,
Yes.
even though we don't know exactly where it will be yet, so. Do I
Yes,
say that?
and I think that one of the reasons why they did apply for this was they felt that this would help in their fundraising efforts,
Yes.
for their eventual purchase of the bridge.
Okay. Okay, so, we do need a motion to address those issues, if the board's interested in taking it.
So I'll go ahead and give it a roll.
Sure, I have one good.
Oh, go ahead.
No, no, please.
No, I was gonna
No.
make it up as I went.
No,
so
it's
you
okay,
know.
I was too, you've been
Oh.
board law.
All right, all
I
right.
think you should make them, I'm just here if you need help.
All right, cool. So I am going to move that we accept the award of the Cumberland County Historical Society that will place the Sheepford Bridge on the Cumberland County Historic Register. And that as part of that, we also accept the award of monies from the Cumberland County Historic Society to purchase a plaque for the bridge, and that the placement of that plaque will be determined at a later date.
Did we want to include a provision about no cost to the county?
I think that's fine. So I
We just
will,
suggested it.
I will add to my motion that there shall be no cost to the county for the award and also for the plaque.
Okay, we have a motion.
Okay, I'm sorry, Tina, in that motion, it sounded like that we were awarding monies, we being the county, not the historic society group.
So
Did I misinterpret?
I'll amend the motion
Okay.
to make it very clear that the award of money to purchase the plaque, that money is coming from the Cumberland County Historic Society directly to the Friends of Sheepford Bridge.
I will second the amended motion.
Okay, so moved and seconded. If there's no further questions, we'll call the action, and all in favor of the motion, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Very good. Okay, is there any additional other business to come before the group? If not, we do open the floor for public comment at this point. Is there anyone online?